Let's talk about Michael Saylor, a tech guy who's made one of the boldest money moves we've ever seen. In this video, we're going to be talking about Michael Saylor, who he is, MicroStrategy, the company that he's the CEO, and basically what he's done with Bitcoin over time and why it was such a pivotal move in the crypto community. So to start off, back in 2020, Michael Saylor was the CEO of a company called MicroStrategy. They sold software and had a bunch of cash just sitting around. Michael Saylor started worrying, what if inflation makes our money worth less over time? So he did something that nobody saw coming. In August of 2020, he took $250 million of the company's cash and bought Bitcoin. He bought over 21,000 coins. He called this move a better place to park their money than cash. The big question is why? Because Bitcoin essentially is limited, like gold. You can't print any more of it, and Michael Saylor loved that. This was the first time a public company ever made Bitcoin its main savings strategy. People thought he was either really smart or totally nuts. But Michael Saylor was not done. He kept buying more, and by the end of 2020, MicroStrategy owned over 70,000 Bitcoins. He started calling Bitcoin digital gold, a way to protect wealth for the long haul. That first big move kicked off what would become one of the wildest Bitcoin buying sprees in history. So why does he keep buying? Let's dig in. All right, so Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy didn't just buy Bitcoin once and call it a day. No, they kept on buying, and I mean a lot. Let's take a look at this chart right here on Bitcoin strategies. So as you can see, from 2021 on through 2023, Michael Saylor was on a mission. Every time the company had extra cash, they bought more Bitcoin, and it was a pretty steady growth here over this period of 2021 through 2023. They even borrowed money to buy more. MicroStrategy sold something called convertible bonds. It's like a fancy loan that can turn into stock and use that money to start stacking up Bitcoin. So their stash grew pretty fast, as you can see here, from about 70,000 in 2021, or the end of 2020 rather, to over 132,000 by the end of 2022 and into 2023. And then look at this, 158,000 by the end of 2023. That's pretty wild when it comes to, the number of Bitcoins that they own. Michael Saylor believed in Bitcoin so much that in 2022, he stepped down as CEO just to focus on MicroStrategy's Bitcoin plan full time. And that's some serious dedication there. He kept saying the same thing. Bitcoin is like digital gold, and maybe even better. He said it's like owning part of the internet, something that will still be valuable 100 years from now. By late 2023, MicroStrategy had spent around $5 to $6 billion on Bitcoin, and today their average price is about $66,000 per Bitcoin. Through all of the highs and lows, even the Bitcoin crash in 2022, Saylor said he would never sell, and they would hodl forever, which, as you may know, hodl is a term that just means hold onto. By the end of 2023, MicroStrategy owned about 0.75% of the Bitcoin that will ever exist. That's nearly 1 out of every 133 Bitcoins. And it's all owned by one company, which is crazy. At that point, people weren't even calling MicroStrategy a software company anymore. It was basically just a Bitcoin holding company. And Saylor was just getting started. 2024, he started doubling down on massive Bitcoin buys. So he didn't want to just keep buying Bitcoin. He wanted to go bigger, like way bigger. That year, MicroStrategy launched something called the 21-21 plan. The goal was to raise $42 billion, half by selling stock, half by borrowing money, and use all of it to buy even more Bitcoin. Yeah, Saylor wasn't just trying to invest. He was trying to turn MicroStrategy into the biggest Bitcoin holder in the world. And to kick things off, they created new stocks just for Bitcoin called STRK and STRF. Investors knew exactly what this plan was: buy more Bitcoin and hold it, and then the buying started. By the end of 2024, as you can see in this article here, MicroStrategy had picked up over 100,000 Bitcoins in just a few months. That brought their total stash of Bitcoins to around 447,000 Bitcoin, nearly double what they had before. On social media, Saylor kept dropping hints about future buys. He was posting charts and quotes and occasional hashtag Bitcoin tweets that got everybody buzzing. And from November 2024 to early 2025, MicroStrategy was buying tens of thousands of Bitcoin every single week. And you can see their buys on this Treasury's website. It shows the live MSTR tracker. It shows their MicroStrategy Bitcoin purchase history as well, with all of the dates, the number of Bitcoin that they purchased, and then, the total running balance of Bitcoin. No public company had ever done anything like this. By early 2025, they hit a massive milestone of 500,000 Bitcoins owned. And you can see that here on the top of this Treasury's page, showing the total number of Bitcoin that they own and the value that it's currently sitting at. 500,000 Bitcoin is over 2% of all of the Bitcoin that will ever exist, which is a huge milestone. Their total investment was around $35.6 billion, and their Bitcoin, obviously, as you can see on this chart right here, is valued over $50 billion. So it's grown quite a bit. They've even rebranded their company as just Strategy and given it a bright orange Bitcoin style logo. And you can see that here on their website. MicroStrategy is now Strategy as of February 5th, 2025, with their new logo in this top corner here. So as you can tell by all this history here, Michael Saylor didn't just go all in. He went all in and then he kept going and kept developing their strategy for Bitcoin. So after buying 500,000 Bitcoins, you've got to wonder, why is Michael Saylor so obsessed with Bitcoin? It's not just a business move, it's also a personal move. Saylor truly believes Bitcoin is a once in a lifetime invention, something as big as electricity or the internet. He says it's hard money, which no one, not even governments, can make more of it out of thin air. In interviews and speeches in 2024 and 2025, as well as what you can see here in this article on CoinDesk, Michael Saylor sees a future where Bitcoin could be worth $200 trillion across the world by 2045. And that's trillion with a T. Now, he's not saying that one Bitcoin would be worth $200 trillion. He means that the market cap of Bitcoin could be worth that, meaning the price of each Bitcoin multiplied by the number of Bitcoins out there, which, as we know, are 21 million Bitcoins, or at least the maximum number of Bitcoins that will ever exist is 21 million, and we're pretty darn close to that. You can always look up on Google the number of Bitcoins that currently exist, as we can see right here. If I look up number of Bitcoin in circulation, there's approximately 20 million Bitcoin in circulation as of 2024, and then of course the number of Bitcoin will max out at a 21 million Bitcoin supply. So Michael Saylor believes that someday not just companies but entire countries will hold Bitcoin in their reserves, kind of like gold. From the same article on CoinDesk that I showed you before, he told the US government that they should start saving Bitcoin to protect America's financial power, which is a big idea, right? And obviously we now have all of these ideas of a Bitcoin reserve and a crypto reserve that the Trump administration are pushing through and things like that, which is, not a new idea, but it's finally seeing some action because of this new administration. For Michael Saylor, it's not just about getting rich. He says that Bitcoin is a way to save wealth over time. One of his most famous quotes, he said that owning one Bitcoin now might be like owning 100 acres of prime land in the future, which, super valuable, obviously. As you can see from Michael Saylor's X profile, he pretty much just posts about Bitcoin all the time, and MicroStrategy, now labeled Strategy. But one of the most important tweets, as what we're discussing right now, is as Bitcoin prices shot up, he posted this tweet: Bitcoin is a perfect thing in an imperfect world. He really talks about Bitcoin like it's a superhero for people living in places with crazy inflation like Argentina. And get this, Michael Saylor even pitched Microsoft's board of directors, telling them that they should use Bitcoin instead of spending money on stock buybacks or dividends. So he's not just stacking coins, he's out here on a full mission. He wants everybody, big businesses, governments, everyday folks, to see Bitcoin the way that he does. To Michael Saylor, Bitcoin isn't just money, it's hope. And obviously it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he's got all of this influence and gets so many more big entities to get in on Bitcoin, then there's a more diverse population of people that have it, making the price go up and the validity of it increase as well. MicroStrategy's aggressive Bitcoin strategy has had ripple effects across the economy and the crypto industry. First, the sheer scale of Saylor's buys, now over 500,000 Bitcoin, has arguably reduced the available supply of Bitcoin on the market to, an important degree. This scarcity can contribute to upward price pressure over time. In fact, analysts have noticed that as more companies adopted a Bitcoin Treasury strategy in 24, it could help prop up Bitcoin's price during volatile periods because people won't be trading them, or at least these big companies aren't going to be making massive shifts in the Bitcoin supply and trading it and, making the volatility increase. Now, as I was mentioning before, Michael Saylor was trying to convince Microsoft to buy Bitcoin. His unwavering stance has really given comments to many other Bitcoin investors. Although Microsoft did not end up deciding to go forward with this Bitcoin strategy, his unwavering stance has given confidence to many other Bitcoin investors. Knowing that a major company was backing up the truck and buying on dips encouraged others to hold and buy rather than sell. So, MicroStrategy, being the one kind of pushing this force, has encouraged other companies. So some traders even jokingly refer to MicroStrategy as a Bitcoin whale that put a price floor in the market by consistently buying. More broadly, Saylor's move inspired a wave of corporate interest in Bitcoin. So by early 2024, a few other firms like Jack Dorsey's Block, which was formerly Square, and Tesla also put Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Basically, they bought Bitcoin with their cash. But Michael Saylor went further by actively encouraging his peers. He hosted online conferences called Bitcoin for Corporations to explain his playbook to other CEOs. And by late 2024, we started seeing what one article called corporate Bitcoin FOMO, or fear of missing out. For example, as you can see on this article on NASDAQ.com, in one second week of November 2024, 7 public companies announced plans to buy Bitcoin for their reserves. One new company even committed to purchasing $1 million of Bitcoin in that day. A Bitcoin magazine report noted that it felt like 1 or 2 new companies were buying Bitcoin or adopting Bitcoin as a reserve asset, finally taking Michael Saylor's advice after seeing MicroStrategy's success. Even overseas firms like Japan's Metaplant followed MicroStrategy's playbook and saw their stock surge as a result. On a macroeconomic level or global economy level, Michael Saylor's point of view has really fed into the narrative of Bitcoin as a legitimate hedge against inflation and currency risk, or basically the idea that Bitcoin can be used to bet against inflation and pose as a way to save your money or keep your dollar's value when it comes to the inflation of the dollar or the devaluation of the US dollar. If you're not familiar with inflation, basically means over time the dollar becomes less valuable because more dollars enter the market, more dollars get printed, and lots of other factors and things like that. It's basically the reason why gas was 17 cents per gallon 50 or 80 years ago. So Michael Saylor's company's public filings and earnings call brought Bitcoin into the Wall Street conversation. Major financial publications and TV networks covered Michael Saylor's moves, giving Bitcoin more mainstream exposure. It's important to note that not everyone agrees with Michael Saylor's extreme position. Some analysts warn that most companies are not ready for Bitcoin's volatility on their books, but nevertheless, Michael Saylor's influence is undeniable. He really helped to transform the perception of Bitcoin from a speculative toy into a strategic asset that some corporations and investors now feel they really must consider. In the big picture, MicroStrategy's accumulation of Bitcoin and his evangelism, or just, insanely hyper positive outlook, has made Bitcoin closer to a mainstream financial asset, potentially paving the way for future Bitcoin ETFs and even central bank holdings down the line and things like that. In short, Michael Saylor's Bitcoin binge not only altered his own company's fate, but it also nudged the broader market and other institutions toward a new paradigm or idea or, opinion on holding Bitcoin, making it seen as a savvy investment and forward thinking. So after everything we've talked about, here's the big picture. Michael Saylor didn't just buy some Bitcoin, he made it his entire mission. From that first move in 2020, buying $250 million worth of Bitcoin, to owning 500,000 Bitcoins by 2025, he basically turned MicroStrategy into the biggest Bitcoin vault on earth. And he didn't stop there. He inspired other companies, pushed Bitcoin into the spotlight, and really helped shape how the world sees Bitcoin today. Whether you think he's a genius or just super bold, there's no denying that Michael Saylor really changed the game when it comes to Bitcoin, especially in, kind of the regular finance world. He believes that Bitcoin is the future. He's putting his money where his mouth is, literally, and it's paying off so far. If you learned something, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to stay tuned for everything crypto. If you want to buy some Bitcoin or Ethereum or any big cryptocurrency like that, I'll leave links to Coinbase and Crypto.com where you can get $50 of free crypto just by signing up with those links. And if you want to buy some meme coins, check out MoonShot. I'll leave a link to the description below. You can claim some free meme coins just by signing up with that link. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.